morning. Good morning. My name is Kawasaki, and this is my son Nate. And Nate happens to be traveling with me on this trip. And when we were backstage, he said, "Can I go on stage with you to see what it's like?" And I didn't want to stifle his creativity and stifle his daringness. So here he is. So now take your selfie. Okay, beat it. So my name is Guy Kawasaki. I am the chief evangelist of a company in Sydney called Canva. I'm here today to talk to you about the art of starting things, specifically the second version of the art of starting things. I come from Silicon Valley. I was the chief evangelist of Apple. I was a software evangelist for Apple. I was a Motorola advisor. And I am currently not only the chief evangelist of Canva, I'm also on the board of trustees of the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the Wikipedia entity, and a visiting executive fellow at the School of Business of UC Berkeley, Haas School of Business. And I have to tell you, I just love your country. I come to your country 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm gradually getting more and more assimilated. I only drink flat whites now. I love this Japanese restaurant in Surrey Hill called Taco. Fantastic place. When I die, I have decided that some of my ashes will be spread in front of Bathers Pavilion at Balmoral Beach, because I've actually written books in Bathers Pavilion, and it's just, I don't know why, it just brings me great peace to be at Bathers Pavilion. And to show pictorial proof of my assimilation into the Australian culture, I present you with this picture. So I've been drafted into the Bondi Bathers Club, and I'm going to go through my life-saving thing. A few days ago, my family and I went swimming in icebergs, the saltwater pool. And let me tell you, there is a reason why that thing is called icebergs right now. It is absolutely freezing cold. So I've had a great time. And now I'm going to try to pay my host back by providing information about startups. Nolan Bushnell, who came out 2 speakers before, is a fantastic example of Silicon Valley entrepreneurship, innovation, daring, and all the good stuff. So he was one of my heroes. And I hope to pass on 10 good tips about entrepreneurship for you. So let's get started. So the first thing that I learned about entrepreneurship is that great companies, great entities start with people asking very simple questions. You know, when you look at a Microsoft or an Apple or a Google, you might think at the very start of that company, they had a grand vision of how they would have operating system and application and devices and gaming and online presence. And I think you'd be very surprised to learn that most of these great companies started with something very simple. Questions like, therefore what? This happens when you have a perspective, a vision, a passion, and you know in your heart that someday there'll be lots of phones, and these phones will have good cameras, and these phones with good cameras will all be connected to the cloud. Therefore what? Therefore you start Flickr or you start Snapchat, because when this vision comes true, there'll be so many ways to get pictures online. There should be a service to tap into that phenomenon. So you start a Flickr. The second concept is, isn't this interesting? This happens when geeks and nerds get together and they try to create something and they fail. Luckily, they fail. And when they fail, they notice something that's interesting about their failure. An example that goes back decades from America is, of course, Post-it pads from 3M. 3M is in the business of making chemicals. They specifically wanted to make a very strong glue. They completely failed, and they made a very weak glue. A glue so weak that you could attach it to a piece of paper, stick the paper on something, and pull the paper off. It would leave no trace. Very, very weak glue. But isn't this interesting? And Post-its was born. The third question is the genesis of Apple. You know, is there a better way? Why is it that to use a computer, you had to go to a university, you had to work for a large company, you had to work for the government? Is there a better way? And there came the Apple I. 3 examples of the kind of simple questions that entrepreneurs ask themselves. So what I'm trying to tell you is, don't put this burden upon yourself that you have to come up with this megalomaniac plan to create this multi-billion-dollar corporation that's going to eventually control the world. Ask and answer simple questions. Step 1. Step 2 is to make what I call an MVVVP. Most people are familiar with the concept of an MVP, minimum viable product. I would like to add to the list of V's, not just viable meaning you can sell it for more than it costs to make, but also valuable, that you've created a product that, to use the words of Steve Jobs, dents the universe. It makes a difference. Because you can have something viable that is not valuable. You can make money doing things that are mediocre and mundane. And the final V I'd like you to add is validating. That this product, this service validates your vision, validates your perspective, your idea, your hope for the world. Let me use a negative example. Let's suppose that one day you open up your browser, you open up your newspaper, you find out that Apple is going back into the printer business. It's going to start selling laser printers again. Let's apply the viable, valuable, validating test to that laser printer. Is it viable? Absolutely. People will buy an Apple-labeled laser printer. No problem, right? So they'll make money doing it. Is it valuable? I would debate that it's not valuable. What difference does it make to the world if Apple sells another laser printer? And does it validate anything about Apple's vision for the future? Not at all. So a laser printer from Apple is viable, but it is not valuable, and it is not validating. Entrepreneurs in this audience, as you come up with your product ideas, I want you to rise above minimum viable product. I want you to make a minimum viable, valuable, validating product, the MVVVP. Number 3 is to get going, to get started. So many entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs are just obsessed with shipping something that's perfect, and they take too long. My experience is that people ship things too late more often than they ship things too early. If you're going to make a mistake by shipping too early, not too late. The key to doing something like this, to getting off to this fast start, is to do something that is probably cringeworthy. You're going to look back and you're going to say, my God, how did we ever think we should ship what we shipped? It should embarrass you. The first book that I wrote, when I look at it now, it embarrasses me. When I think about the first Macintosh that I was affiliated with, 128K of RAM, 400K floppy drive, the secret hard disk that was a whopping 5 megabytes. Thanks to my efforts, there was no software. My God, what were we thinking? It makes me cringe to think about the first Macintosh. But you know what? If you're in an organization and you have the luxury of cringing about your version 1, it means you probably did it right. And by definition, if you're in an organization and you're thinking about version 1 that makes you cringe, at least it means you are still alive. Don't worry, ship something cringeworthy. Next thing is to find complementary soulmates. 2 key concepts in this bullet item. First, complementary. Complementary means that fundamentally, in an entrepreneurial organization, there are only really 2 necessary skills. Somebody has to make it, and somebody has to sell it. Everything else is bullshit. Make it and sell it. And so if you're an engineer, you need to find someone who can sell it. And if you're a salesperson, you need to find someone who can make it. If you're all engineers, there will be no one to sell it. If you're all salespeople, there'll be nothing to sell. Steve Jobs needed Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak needed Steve Jobs. Complementary. And soulmates. Soulmates mean that you need to be on the same page. That if some of the founders are looking at a company as a lifestyle company where they'll work part-time and they'll never come in on weekends, they'll never work late, they're trying to build a company that suits their lifestyle and maybe they'll quickly flip it, and other people are willing to dedicate their lives. They're going to lash themselves to the company. If the company goes down, they're going to go down with it. That's not soulmates. You need people who are on the same page. Third point about getting started is to make a mantra. I think many organizations, particularly American ones, filled with MBAs, spend much too much time making mission statements. The purpose of these mission statements is to kind of cover every possible group that's involved, every party, everything. So mission statements come across like this, where we endeavor to create patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting products that exceed the expectations of our customers while enabling our shareholders to receive a monetary, reasonable return, while enabling our employees to self-actualize their life goals while killing as few dolphins as possible. Okay? That's your American mission statement. What you want is a mantra. A mantra has only 2 or 3 words. The mantra for Google: democratize information. Apple: increase productivity and creativity. Federal Express: peace of mind. It's stuff like that. My personal mantra: empower people. 2 words that define why I exist. Make a mantra. The next thing you need to do is to define a business model. Absolutely necessary, perhaps distasteful to some people, but you have to make money. Some key concepts about a business model. First of all, be specific. It's not about saying, well, we're a software company. That's not specific enough. Neither is saying we're an enterprise software company. That's still not specific enough. You need to say you are an enterprise software company serving the biotech industry, specifically the application for FDA approval. It should be so specific that you have the name or the title of the person who has your money in her pocket. Your job is to get your money out of her pocket into your pocket. That's the definition of a business model. It is that specific. Next point is to keep it simple. You know what? There are many ways to innovate on products and services. Very difficult, very rewarding if you pull it off. I would suggest that if you can pull off the engineering, the science of innovating with a product or service, you should not also open up a new front called we're going to innovate on our business model. It's too hard to innovate on product and service, and then to throw on you're going to innovate on a business model, you're making your life too hard. Basically, you want a business model where it costs you $1 and you sell it for $10. That's it. Very simple. Third point is to ask women. The reason why I tell you this is because I believe that men have a fundamental genetic flaw. The fundamental genetic flaw is men want to kill things. Men want to kill plants. They want to kill animals. They want to kill people. They want to kill countries. They want to kill political parties. They want to kill products. They want to kill services. They want to kill companies. Okay? So whenever you ask a man, is it a good idea to start a YouTube killer? Is it a good idea to start something that will kill PowerPoint? Or Apple, or Apple's watch, or Apple's MacBook? Is it a good idea to start a bank to kill Commonwealth Bank? Every man always says yes, because men cannot resist the temptation to try to kill things. Women do not have this fundamental genetic flaw. So when you want to know if you have a good idea and you have a good business model, do not waste time asking men. Only ask women. Number five is to weave a mat. You know, when you start a company, it is a beautiful situation. It's like being the first skier down the mountain in the morning. If you're into figure skating or ice hockey, it's like being the first person on the ice after the Zamboni has shaved the ice. It's just a beautiful feeling. And a company, when you start it, is just like that. You know, if you're in an existing company, you have these crappy employees you never should have hired. You have this crappy furniture and this crappy office. You have a crappy architecture. You have this crappy install base that's bugging you for free upgrades. You got all this stuff, right? But no, when you start a company, it's pure, packed powder that no one has skied on. And in that kind of scenario, you're tempted to think, well, there's so much stuff we can do in our new company. We could work with graphic designers and design a new logo, this really cool logo. And we could create these viral Kickstarter 90-second videos, that's going to win awards. And then we can order stationery, and we can go to whatever your version of IKEA is, and we can build this really cool stand-up desk with an electric motor connected to it, and all this kind of cool stuff. Because when you're on a sheet of ice or at the top of the mountain that no one has skied down before, it looks all so interesting. So a mat is to help you prioritize. The first thing you should do is worry about milestones. Milestones are things that you would call up your spouse or text your spouse and say, honey, today we shipped. Today we finished the design. Today we closed our first sale. You would not call up your spouse and say, honey, today we ordered business cards. Am I not a great entrepreneur? Next thing is you have to test the assumptions of your business. It's very important. I'll give you the Silicon Valley pitch for pets.com. 300 million Americans, 1 in 4 owns a dog. That means 75 million dogs. Each dog eats 2 cans of dog food per day. 150 million cans of dog food per day. How hard could it be with our rock star programmers to make a website with e-commerce using black hat SEO techniques to get a mere 1% of that 150 million cans per day? That's 1.5 million cans per day. 365 days a year. Because this is B2C. Actually, it's B2D. This is not B2B, right? Dogs eat every day of the year. So you test this assumption that, it's not so hard to get 1.5 million cans of dog food per day. Well, one way of testing the assumption is to do a bottom-up analysis. The way the bottom-up analysis works is, using all our SEO, black hat magic, and all this kind of stuff, perhaps we could get 100,000 uniques to our site in the first few months. Let's say of those 100,000 uniques, 1,000 buy a case of dog food. So 1,000 people buy a case of 25 cans of dog food. That's 25,000 cans of dog food. So we have a little bit of a discrepancy. Bottom up, we come up with 25,000 cans of dog food per month. Going the other way, we come up with 45 million cans of dog food per month, conservatively speaking. And I hate to break it to you, guess which side of this spectrum your results are likely to be? 25,000 per day, 25,000 per month. So you need to test your assumptions. Next thing you do is to actually ship, to launch, to not simply talk about this 1%, this growing market, but you need to get it out there. And finally, you do tasks. Tasks are things that help you reach milestones, test assumptions. Stuff like hire an engineer. That's a task. Ordering a logo is not a meaningful task. Milestone, assumption, test, task. The pecking order of entrepreneurship. Number 6 is to tell your story. Great entrepreneurs can tell their story. Many entrepreneurs stand up in front of an audience and they say, I have patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, enterprise, scalable product. Everybody says that because they think that everybody else stands up and says, I have a piece of crap that's slow, buggy, and hard to use and cannot scale. So this is the opposite test. The opposite test means that ask yourself, is your competition saying the opposite of you? Is your competition saying, I have a slow, buggy, hard-to-use piece of crap? So now you come up and you say, I have patent-pending, curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, bug-free, really fast, easy-to-use product. The odds are that you're flunking the opposite test. If everybody says the same thing, I don't care what adjective you use, you're not saying anything different. The second point is to make it personal. The great stories of Silicon Valley are not about penetrating these large growing markets. Pierre Omidyar, the founder of eBay, tells a story that the reason why he created eBay was because his wife was a toy collector. She wanted to sell her collection of Pez dispensers. There was no way for her to do it. So he created eBay to help her sell Pez dispensers online. Incidentally, total bullshit story, okay? But it is a great story nonetheless. Great story nonetheless. The point is to make it personal. And the third point is to embrace what I call the 10-20-30 rule of PowerPoint or Keynote, depending on what app you use. This means that you have to tell your story with 10 slides in 20 minutes using no font larger than 30 points. If you just did that, you'd be better than 90% of the pitches in the world. 10 slides, 20 minutes. Why 20 minutes when there's probably a 60-minute window for your appointment? It's because despite my efforts, to this day, roughly 90% of the world uses Windows. And I know that if you carry a Windows laptop into a meeting, it takes 40 minutes to make it work with the projector. If the whole world used Macintoshes, this would be the 10-60-30 rule, okay? And 30 points. Select all the fonts in your presentation, make them 30 points, and see how much goes off the page, and keep cutting till it all fits. 10, 20, 30. Number 7 is to hire infected people. By infected people, I mean that you need to ignore irrelevancy. Okay? Everybody knows when you hire somebody, you look at their education and you look at their work experience. You're looking for a match. You're looking for relevancy. You're looking for proven potential, all this kind of good stuff. And I'll tell you there are 2 cases. One is, let's say you're trying to hire somebody. Perfect educational background, perfect work experience, but does not love the product, does not get it. In that case, I would make the case that the perfect education and perfect work experience is irrelevant. Ignore that. Don't hire that person. The flip side is also true. Let's say the person doesn't have the perfect background, education, and work experience, but does love the product, thinks that the product is world-changing, denting the universe. When I first saw Macintosh, I swear, the clouds parted. The angels started to sing. Okay? You need to ignore the irrelevant. I came to Apple from a background of working in the jewelry business, literally schlepping gold and diamonds, counting gold and diamonds. No computer science degree, no work experience in the computer science business, in the technology business. Ignore the irrelevant. Second thing is to hire better than yourself. A players hire A+ players. B players hire C players. C players hire D players. E players hire F players. And so we go. If you start hiring B players, if you lower your standards, you're going to be surrounded by Z players. This is called the bozo explosion. You need to fight the bozo explosion. Last point on hiring infected people is to apply the shopping center tests. The way the shopping center test works is this. Let's suppose you go to a shopping center. You go to Queen Victoria building. And you look across the way and you see someone that you know is interviewing at your company. Okay? So you can make a beeline straight to that person and say, I know you're interviewing at a company. I hope you join us. We're just going to kick butt. We're going to change the world. We're going to democratize design at Canva. Whatever it is, right? One reaction is you just make a beeline to that person. Second reaction is, Queen Victoria building is not that big. If I get face-to-face with that person, I'll say hello. Third reaction is, I am going to go to Westfield Mall. If your first reaction is not to make a beeline straight to that person, I suggest you not hire the person, because startups are families. Dysfunctional families, but families. You have to want to go straight and see that person. Number 8 is to socialize, and I don't mean in the political sense. Socialize means that social media is the best thing that ever happened to entrepreneurs, because now marketing is fast and free and ubiquitous. When I started companies, we'd have to spend $75,000 for a Wall Street Journal ad. We'd have to go to Comdex and CES. Not true anymore. Step 1 is to perfect your profiles. The avatar, your face, should project that you are competent, that you are trustworthy, and you are likable. The cover story should tell the story of your company, your brand, or your career. But the avatar is just your face. The cover photo tells your story. Next point is you need to embrace the NPR model. NPR, National Public Radio, is like ABC for you. ABC, I think your government pays. NPR is supported very little by the U.S. government. They have to run these fundraising pledge drives every once in a while. But you know what? NPR provides such great content that people don't mind the pledge drive. In fact, we contribute. So the test for social media is you're providing such value that you can run a pledge drive. At Canva, we try to present such great content about design, not about Canva, about fonts and colors and photography, that when we want to run our pledge drive, i.e. telling you about a new product or service from Canva, we have earned the right, and you feel the need to reciprocate, to pay attention to our pledge drive because we have been providing great content all year. That's the NPR model. Next thing is to pass the reshare test. The reshare test means that whatever you post is so great that not only do your followers like it, they will reshare it to their followers. It is a higher test for content. Because when people reshare your content, it means that they are risking their reputation on what you shared. And if you can pass the reshare test, you will increase the size and potency of your social media platform because more people will find out about you. Pass the reshare test. Number 9 is to seed the clouds. That is to make it rain. American colloquialisms for sales. The key to sales is to let 100 flowers blossom. You may think you know exactly what people should do with your product or service. Come to find out, you were wrong. Unintended customers use your product in unintended ways. Don't freak out. Celebrate. Declare victory. Apple wanted to make Macintosh a spreadsheet database and word processing machine. Guess what? 0 for 3. Macintosh became a desktop publishing machine. We did not plan that. Aldous PageMaker was a gift from God that created desktop publishing and saved Apple. Imagine a world without Apple. We'd all have phones where the battery lasted for more than half a day. We'd have GPS. We'd have GPS that actually worked. We'd have a real keypad. We had phones you could put in your jeans and they wouldn't bend. It would be a different world. Let 100 flowers blossom. You think you have a spreadsheet database and word processing machine? Come to find out you have a desktop publishing. Hallelujah. Declare victory. Throw stuff against the wall. See where it sticks. Go up to the wall. Paint the bullseye around it. You hit the bullseye. God bless you. Number 2. Number 2 is to enable test drives. What you're saying is to people, I think you're smart. And because I think you're smart, I'm going to enable you to test drive the product and service. Then you decide. Don't ram it down their throat. Third point is to find the influencers. You know, it used to be easy, top down. You sucked up to the Wall Street Journal, they made you. It's not true anymore. I'm not saying you should ignore the Wall Street Journal, but I'm telling you right now, the pyramid has become inverted. And now, Lonely Boy 15 at AOL.com, who lives with his mother and sleeps on Buzz Lightyear sheets, could make you successful. You cannot ignore that anymore. Social media. You know, in the business of books, it used to be that people waited for the New York Times book review to review a book before you bought it. If the New York Times blessed you, you had a bestseller. It's not true anymore. When a book ships on Amazon, in the next couple days, there'll be dozens of reviews. There'll be a conglomerate, cumulative score of 4 stars, 4.5 stars, or 2 stars. People go to Amazon, they look at 4.5 stars, they read a few reviews by Lonely Boy 15, not the Washington Post, not the New York Times, not the Sydney Morning Herald, none of that. They look at that, they look at the scores, and they click, and it's in their basket. That's the nature of marketing today. Lonely Boy 15 is the influencer. Number 10, don't let the clowns grind you down. Arguably the most important thing, and I'm 2 minutes and 48 seconds over time, but what can you do? Because, right, yeah, you're trying to cut me off, but I know that the next thing is a break. Okay, so what are you going to do? Not take me to Melbourne? So number 10. I spent 2 minutes introducing my son. What can I say? So, don't let the clowns grind you down. This is about bozosity. This is about clueless, stupid, negative people. There are 2 kinds of clowns or bozos in the world. One kind is a loser, slovenly, disgusting, pocket protector, Japanese watch, rusty car. That's a loser. That's not dangerous because only a loser would listen to a loser. So unless you're a stupid loser, you don't have to be afraid of other stupid losers because you're not stupid enough to listen to the loser. No danger. The dangerous bozo, the dangerous clown, is a successful bozo or clown. Dresses in all black. Owns lots of stuff that ends in I like Armani, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati. Audi is okay. Audi is the exception. Okay? So you look at that person and you think, wow, rich, famous, must parse to smart. I should listen to this person. I would tell you, rich and famous parses to lucky half the time, right? And now you know that Tom Cruise doesn't have a perfect symmetrical face. I still hope that you don't take his advice on religion, okay? He's rich and famous. I don't think you should listen to Kim Kardashian about raising children, okay? Rich and famous doesn't parse to right or smart. So I think that bozosity is like the flu. How do you fight the flu? You get a flu shot. You inoculate yourself. So when you encounter big flu, you've built up resistance. I'm going to give you some bozosity now. So when you encounter bozosity as you start a company, you can resist the bozosity. I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers. Thomas Watson, chairman of IBM. 5 computers. I have 5 Macs in my house. I have all the computers he anticipated in the world in my house. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. The device is inherently of no value to us. Western Union, 1876. Oops! You know, Western Union could be PayPal today. It could be Bitcoin. It could be Square. But not if you write off telephony. What were they going to do? Teach all the Americans Morse code and put a telegraph in every house? String a long wire behind your car, put a telegraph in your car? Hallelujah. There is no reason why anyone would want a computer in their home. Ken Olsen, founder of DEC, great entrepreneur, great innovator, so successful in the mini computer curve, took us away from the mainframe curve, but he could not embrace the personal computer curve. Imagine if you were Steve or Woz and you met Ken Olsen and you told them your plans for personal computer, and Ken Olsen shut you down by saying there's no reason why anyone would want a computer in their home. Because if you think about it, at the time you were starting Apple, who would be a better investor, advisor, director, mentor than someone like Ken Olsen, right? And he would have told you, no one's going to buy a computer. There's no reason to have a computer in your home. This is dangerous bozosity. Don't let the clowns grind you down. And that is the art of innovation. Thank you very much. Thank you.